Hello everyone, welcome back to my tutorial series. Today I thought I would share with you guys a little bit about how to handle multiple connections on the server. So at the moment, everything on the server, all the connections, are running within this application. And that's fine. But the problem with that is the fact that it's hard to distinguish between different connections. So the way that you get around this is that every new connection that's made to your server is executed. Once it's established, it's then passed to and executed within a thread. So you can have multiple connections between two different applications running at the same time. So in order to do this, what I've done, you'll see that this code isn't particularly, there's not a lot to it at the moment. And the reason for that is because a lot of the handling of, a lot of the handling of the client information is actually done within this third class, the connection container. So once a connection is established, if I uncomment this section for you, once the connection is established, what we're going to do is we're going to create an object of the, we're going to create an instance, of the connection container class. And we're going to call its constructor. And what that's going to do is that's going to pass the socket that we've made up here, and it's going to pass it to this connection container class so that the connection container class can carry on using the socket. And this is important because it then allows us to close the socket within the, actually I think, let's see if I can do this. I think I'm going to try that. It might not work, we'll have to see. But the idea is so that basically the server is just acting as a way to establish a connection. And then in order to handle it properly, we're wrapping the connection within the connection container, so that all of the handling of specific tasks, such as reading data and writing data, are handled separate to the server itself, because the server is going to have to do other tasks as well. And so I think it makes more sense to separate the two bits of code, really. Okay, so the socket's been passed to the connection container. That's all well and good. Some of this you can ignore. So write connection and stuff, that you can ignore. Ooh, don't do that. That's a mistake. There we go. That is going to be for some other functionality that I'm going to show you later, because at the moment the solution doesn't work perfectly, and I'll explain a bit about more about that in future videos. But for now, just know that the server is passing the sockets it makes to the connection container, so that input and output can be handled within the thread within this class here. Okay, so if I go in here a little bit, and I'll kind of tell you what it's doing. So it's got a global socket, and the reason for that is because what we're doing is basically we're creating a replica of the socket, because in the server you'll notice that we've closed the server and the socket and the server socket, so the connection within this application is dead. However, in order to keep it alive, we're replicating it within the connection container. So even though it doesn't exist here, the connection still exists here. And the reason for that is so that the server will be able to distinguish between multiple connections. Because if you say you had 10 socket S's, if you put S, it's like, well, which one are you referring to? I think by default it will refer to the latest one, but you've still got 9 connections which you're neglecting, and you'll never be able to access. However, with this, I think you will. So in the long term, the idea is that the socket will be handled within here, and the server will keep track of the connection containers it creates, and that will be saved to I think at the moment I'm saving it to this array. So this array is going to store all the connections that are made to the server, and then handling the connections. Sorry, not handling, like the management of the connections from like a higher level than just input and output is going to be dealt with by this server class as opposed to the connection container. So I guess simply put, the connection container handles the specifics of one connection, and the server handles the management of all of the connections as a whole. And that's the way it's done. I will say, just a final thing on this, the server puts all of this in a new thread. I think this is good for efficiency of execution. So it means that your computer will be processing connections at the same time. So you can have 3 games running, and it won't wait for game 1 to do something before it then does something to game 2. It will be able to run them simultaneously, since all of the code's been put into its own individual thread. And that's great. However, the downside to that is if you've got a slow computer or if you've got a lot of connections, that is going to require a lot of processing power and memory. So it swings and roundabouts. So it could work great for speed or make your program a lot faster, but it will crash your computer a hell of a lot quicker. So you just got to weigh it up. As a consequence of running it in a thread, this connection container implements the runnable interface, and that allows for any code within specific locations, so within the run method, to be executed within a thread. So the thread is an object set up by the Java gods, and what you have to do as an individual programmer is you define what application you want to be able to run as a thread. So you do that by implementing runnable, and then specifically what you want to be done within the thread itself, and that's done by putting your code within a run method. The run is basically like the main method of a thread, if that makes sense. So when I do t.start at the bottom, so sorry, this statement above thread creates a new thread, and it says, okay, I want the connection container object to be the code that is executed within this thread. When I then call t.start, it's like, okay, well, what specifically do I want to do? Oh, okay, I want to execute this output method, because that's the first line of the run statement, the run method, sorry. And that's how that works. Sorry, I can't believe I forgot that. It's adding some error messages. So in the event that the output method fails, just add this in. If you want the specifics of how to use a thread, I'm more than happy to create a tutorial on that. This is a much more kind of sort of chuck you in at the deep end kind of like approach to it. But I don't know. I'm sure you guys can handle it. It will be good. I'm just trying to think. I don't really think I want to cover anything else in this video. I'm going to try a shorter video and see what you guys think of that, as opposed to the longer ones that I've been doing at the moment. So I hope this is useful. I will say, from the research I've done, this is a very common technique. If you're coding a server in Java, this is the common approach to do it. So if you look on Stack Overflow, that kind of thing, you will find that this is how people suggest handling multiple connections. So if you just want to copy and paste this, go for it, because it is kind of the standard way. I haven't really found another way of doing this. This is the go-to. Anyway, I hope it's useful. If anyone uses it and does something exciting, let me know. And I'll see you for the next one.